Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar. I'm Steve Cooper. Here's Kim Cooper.
I'm Kim.
We're talking with Dallas again today. Say hello, Dallas.
Hi.
So thanks everyone for tuning in. If you were with us yesterday, you would have heard us speak about the Baggage Dumper program, and you would have heard us talk about part of the biggest problem that we've got is that if we don't let go of our past bad habits and our past bad behaviors and our past bad thinking, we do carry it through to the present and to the future, and we're looking at ways to get rid of that. And we discussed a lot about that yesterday. I gave an example of how I took on my grandfather's irritability, and I didn't realize that until I did the Baggage Dumper program with Dallas. And so we had a bit of a chat, and we talked about that a bit further. And today we're going to carry on a little bit from that, but move it into the next step. And Kim, do you want to share with us how that's going to look today?
Yeah, sure. The vision for today's show that we'd really like by the end of the show for people to be really clear about what it looks like when you actually get rid of your baggage, and what are you going to replace it with? What's your life going to look like? How are things going to change? And of course, we can't tell people in the audience exactly what their own lives will look like. That's something that Dallas actually is one of her favorite sessions that actually comes up towards the end, where it's you who need to choose that yourself. But I think it's going to be interesting today to talk about the fact that, yeah, when you get rid of you, it's going to change, make room for new things, and what that might look like. I might just mention really quickly before we go to Dallas, though, that yesterday's webinar will be up later on today as live content in the Gold Level members area. We're really encouraging people to join us, Gold Level members. There's just so much content and great stuff in there. Yesterday's webinar, the three webinars we do yesterday, today and tomorrow will all be included, and hopefully we can get something going. We'll see if Dallas is got the time to do it, but maybe once a week or once a month or once every couple of weeks with Gold Level members, of actually doing a hangout where it's interactive and people can get on and ask questions and actually have a chance to share with us live how they're experiencing the program. So yes, we really encourage you to become a Gold Level member. There'll be more on how to do that later, and you can see yesterday's webinar and today's replay and tomorrow's all in that area if you join. But for now, Dallas, this vision that we're talking about what is life past our emotional baggage? Is there life after our emotional baggage?
Yeah, well, that's, as you say, that is my favourite bit when we get past there. But it's really interesting to see how once we do get rid of our emotional baggage, there's that free, open territory, and things that used to have a hook in them for us. It's sort of a language that really means something to me, having that hook in it. When something comes up and you feel that grab inside you, oh, that really bothers me, and you go to react. You can go through life with hardly any of those happening. You might find a little one and you think, ooh, what was that? And then you can go back and use some of the processes you've learned to get rid of that one as well. So it just leaves things much more open for you to choose and decide. So yeah, just a lot more lighthearted and free, and it's sometimes territory that people don't even remember ever having. So it can be, it's just such a beautiful space to be in, but it can also be challenging for people if they've filled their lives up in the past with stuff related to the baggage that they've had, and so it can be a bit of a blank page effect. Artists talk about how intimidating the blank page can be. What goes there? So it is a dilemma. It's the best dilemma you could possibly have, in my opinion, how to fill up your nice, beautiful, open, blank space that you've got once you've dumped your baggage. But it still is, something we need to relearn and refill, learn what to put in there next.
Well, I'd really like to share some of Steve and my experience with that, and I really look forward to asking Steve soon. We're going to get to you talking about, how it's been since you've overcome that, well, since you've seen that idea that you were taking on your grandfather's irritability, and what you have replaced that with, and maybe getting some advice from Dallas. But first, I want to mention a little bit of my own experience, and I guess this is a little bit embarrassing, and it goes back really a few years now, 3 or 4 years now, to Dallas, when I first met you, and I was first still working through, the process of finding a better marriage and getting on my feet. I mean, I've never claimed to be an expert on this. I only actually researched all this stuff because I needed it so badly. And I mean, I know, for one, I had actually become somebody who was just so overwhelmed with emotional baggage that I hardly was functioning, really. I had so much brain fog. I think it really actually finally hit me when, the kids were still very small, but I realized that I couldn't remember the name of a really good friend of mine that I'd been in a band with for years when I'd been younger. And I really just couldn't remember his name. And I went, oh, okay, this really isn't good. And I mean, of course, an hour or so later, I did remember his name. It came back to me, but I just thought, wow. And then I actually realized that my children just didn't know me. They didn't know me at all, because I just saw the previous parts of my life, and there'd been so much pain, and there'd been so much sort of turmoil between us, and also other relationships that I'd been through before we were married. And I guess what I'm getting to here, and I know we've talked about this before, Dallas, so I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me on this one, is that I was using my problems and my emotional problems as a way of connecting with other people. It was just about all that I wanted to talk to Steve about was about our marriage problems. There was a lot of blame in that, where I wanted to blame him for our problems, and I wanted to fix him, and I wanted to talk about my own problems, and I won't mention who in my family I think I got that one from. But I remember you saying, Dallas, something about that being a very low grade way of trying to connect with people and trying to form friendships, and I know that was certainly the case for me. I don't really think I realized back then. I do, looking back on it now, how much strain and damage I was putting on my relationships by doing that.
Yeah, that's right. And I think a lot of us fall into that trap. And it's all we know, we've got that buzzing around in our heads the whole time. There's really nothing else in there to share with someone. So one of the things we need to do once we're through that is to start rebuilding. Well, who am I? And sometimes it's worth looking back to who you were as a young person before the rubbish started building up, if there was a time you can remember like that. What did you enjoy doing? What were the things that when you were doing them you just totally lost track of time? What excited you? What physical things did you like to get out and do? What emotional things did you enjoy engaging with? What intellectual things were you interested in? So you have to rediscover yourself almost from scratch. And it's a lovely journey, but it's one that's worth having for yourself, and really worth having for the sake of the people around you, who otherwise, you can almost see their eyes roll when you say, well, I just want to talk to you about, and they go, oh, here we go again. You know that look? So it's really worth avoiding that. And our partners try not to do that look, but somewhere inside them their heart sinks and they think, oh, no, here we go again. And really, you don't have to have those conversations. You can rise above them. Some of them are worth having, obviously, and you've got the scripts to help people have them. But a lot of those ones that are just rubbish, that we're just processing our stuff, they really don't need to happen. One of the lovely things that I've learned from you guys is the joy of challenging each other, thinking from the point of view of your partner. So particularly women can do this really well with their men, thinking, well, what's the next challenge for him? What would he really get excited about doing? And can I maybe challenge him, like, is it worth joining that local football group? And I bet you could do that if you really wanted to. I bet you could. And I know you've said, Steve, that you know exactly when she's doing this to you, but you love it anyway. That's kind of fun. And that's, boy, is that a great replacement soundtrack to have compared to what you used to have, hey?
Well, I can vouch for that, and I do, and I'm very good at picking when Kim's challenging me these days. I am, and I do appreciate it because it is a vastly better way to approach the problem that Kim has, and we've all got problems with other people in our lives, and so just that simple transformation of going from what Kim used to do, nagging, complaining, highlighting forensically all of the little bits of problems that there are with every dynamic that ever happened. Sorry, Kim, just kidding. But we, us guys, it's true though.
It's true.
I challenge you to stop. Kim doesn't do that anymore, so I don't need to challenge her to stop to do that. But what I was saying was, us men and maybe some women too, who are a little bit simple-minded like us, Vet, we can't deal with it. We really don't know how, it's difficult for our, men have got enough problem as it is dealing with our own egos. Those of us that haven't really, tried to smash through that ego barrier that we've all faced with. But it's really difficult to get anywhere and say, well, that's interesting. I wonder if we could try a few different things. You got anything in mind? Because you can't talk that calmly about it when you feel like you're being attacked or you feel like a problem's being exacerbated. And so we're just talking about very simple changes to the way we approach it, and it's not there's no blame in it. I mean, I'd just like to jump in here and say that the guys, and particularly guys like me, we get it. We initially just go curtains, and it's not nice, and it's not nice for us, but we've got to work through it. And the fact that Kim and I have been together 21 years now, nearly 22 years, we've put a lot of time into dealing with that, and it has made things so much easier. I mean, so much easier. We actually create a lot of great stuff now for ourselves and for other people. Whereas before we were just loggerheads.
Yeah, that's right. And our life has just become so much more interesting. I mean, there used to never be enough time. There was just never, ever enough time, even though I didn't really do anything and I really didn't have a life. But I felt like there was never enough time because all I wanted to do was actually just talk about my problems with somebody. You were who I wanted to talk about my problems with the most. And even if there was 3 full days or 4 full days to talk about my problems, that was not going to be enough because that was not going to solve them. It was actually probably just going to reinforce them. And then when I got past that, it was just all of a sudden, wow, what am I going to fill my time up with? And I mean, I can look back, and since then I've learned about old jazz, and I've started DJing again, and I've got interested in ancient history, and and you may still not necessarily be interested in all of those things, but I think you find them a lot more interesting than our problems.
Yeah, that's right. For sure.
I've started doing this thing recently where I get a bunch of iron filings if I've got somebody with me who is struggling with relationships, and I just dump them out onto my desk. And I give the person a stick and say, okay, that's your partner and your partner's attention. Gather it towards you as best you can. And they're getting this stick and they're trying to get these iron filings to come towards them, and they're trying. And then I say, wouldn't it be much easier if you became one of these? And I give them a magnet and it just goes doing. So we think it's all about making them do something, but it really is about making us do something. We become something different, and our partner responds. So yeah, you made yourself magnetic. It's beautiful.
and now, even when Steve sort of is tired and he acts like he's not interested and whatever, it's like, a few days will go by and he'll like, come on, tell me some more of those stories you were telling me about, you know, the Egyptians and stuff. Come on, I really was interested. And it's kind of like, you know, I've had to actually learn the difference now between when you're just being lazy and being a guy, you know, with the curtains thing and just ignoring me, and when you're actually really bored. You know, I think I pick it better now when you're actually bored and go, oh, okay, I need to do something about that. And then there's other times where I just go, you're not listening to me. Come on, wake up. Stop being lazy.
Sometimes I don't listen. But I mean, part of what we're talking about here is that, I mean, we made a conscious effort many years ago to stop working at cross purposes, and I think that came from you, Kim, more than anyone. And you really did inspire me to and challenge me to do some different things. So we stopped working a lot, and I handle a lot of the customer service. It comes to me, to the help desk. A lot of our readers and audience and listeners, they're really struggling with that. And it's really hard. It's really hard for me because what we've just talked about, they're really struggling because they feel like their partner isn't. First of all, the reader thinks that they're not that they know everything that we teach. That that they know that they need to be lighthearted. They know they need to self-soothe. They know that they need to take care of themselves and their money. And they know a lot of the things that they learn in Back from the Looking Glass. So they feel like they're on the right track. But then the next part of the sentence is, well, but my partner prevents this, my partner blocks this, my partner stops this, my partner won't do this, and he won't listen or she won't listen. And so then the next question is, they say, so Steve, what did you do different? What happened? What did Kim say to you? And I think that's the question we get all of the time. But this is why we're doing this webinar today. This is why Dallas has come in and created the Baggage Dumper program with Kim, because that whole process is really not just a matter of flicking a switch here and flicking a switch there in order for someone to be happy. There really needs to be a conscious effort, like we spoke about yesterday, and there really needs to be an understanding that we're going to stop working at cross purposes and that we're going to actually try and make this relationship work. And part of that is not talking about old garbage as much as we used to.
Yeah, that's right. But look, I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit here as well, because sometimes you gotta fight as well. Sometimes you gotta fight, And I mean, I remember that. When I cleared out a lot of stuff and I was ready for some new things in my life, and I focused on you and the family anymore because I had a little bit more, free space in me to actually, start exploring and being lighthearted and being myself. I remember a little bit over a year ago when I decided I was going to get back into DJing, and I had the opportunity to do that. You weren't really excited about that at all.
I said, no. It sounds like really hard work.
Yeah, and the kids weren't really terribly excited about that because you guys didn't mind the status quo where my life was just focused on all of you. Back then, I fought you for it. I really got in, and we had quite a few fights until I just showed you I wasn't going to give in, that I was doing this, that I couldn't sit at home on the computer any longer, just dealing with other people's problems, that I had to get out and do some stuff. But even though we fought about that, and for a little while we were, I guess, at cross purposes, I wasn't fighting you. I was fighting for what I needed. And it was a little bit of a surprise for you that what I needed wasn't really you. What I needed was actually a bit of a social life and to get out and to do some other stuff. And even though you want the time, now you'll say how much more interesting our relationships become and how much more interesting our social lives become and how probably more interesting I am to be around. Well, that's right. But I do have some other interests that aren't just the family.
Yeah, that's right. No, 100%. And you do have to fight for stuff. You do have to change the old habits. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, but I agree with you, you know, when people write to us, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm doing whatever. I'm going to be a bit cheeky here, but then one they often say is, but he still doesn't want to sit down and talk about our problems together. And it's kind of like, oops, well, maybe you haven't actually got it, because that's not what we're real big advocates of. We don't actually think that talking about your problems often solves them. But anyway, we've been talking too much. I don't know. I'm sure you might have some thoughts on that, Dallas, or you might want to take the conversation somewhere else.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear you say that stuff, because I think people have this illusion that the best relationship, there's no conflict. But actually, one of the things I admire about you as a couple is seeing how fair you fight. And I think that's the aim of the game, not to not fight, but to fight fair and fight well, and to have respect for each other. And you know, if you get hot under the collar, you know to step back and deal with it later. And you know all the rules of engagement, I guess, and how to get the best out of that fight and how to respect each other through the fight. And so, yeah, I really admire the way you two fight. So the listeners might be surprised to know. And it's what makes your relationship so great.
Well, it's interesting. Well, I think it's interesting because I think, you know, as you mentioned, when it comes to psychology, and, you know, I used to be somebody who worked really hard all of the time to be attractive and to try and lure Steve in to these sort of like dinners and scenarios where we were going to talk about, I was going to sort of trap him and we were going to talk about our problems. And then I turned around from that, and rather than trying to be somebody attractive and alluring into someone that was ready to fight him, saying, no, I have to have more in my life than just you. I want other things too, and you've got to be prepared to let me do that. And but the second is actually what made me more attractive.
That's right.
Right. Trying to sort of seduce somebody into this little sort of intimate dynamic that you think is actually going to be some kind of therapy that is going to heal you both. It's a real trap, because it doesn't work. And, you know, I know professionals and psychologists, they're all taught that, that they shouldn't try and analyze or psychoanalyze their partners. But I have enough of them come to me for help that I know plenty of them still do try and do that, and that they really don't often see the alternatives.
And look, Dallas, how does this relate to baggage? I mean, I guess what we're really talking about here is old baggage, isn't it? That we're bringing forward to the table with our relationships at present.
Yeah, so I've just been reflecting on that as you've been chatting there. If you go back to your book, Back from the Looking Glass, that maps out all the things you need to do to get yourself strong, and it's all about, the first part of that book is just all about getting yourself in a situation where you're back in your strength and back in your power, and setting your own goals and having things in your life just managed so that they're not dangerous anymore, and you've got people in your corner. There's a lot you have to do in that part if you're in an abusive relationship to get yourself safe. And I guess that's where baggage dumper comes in there. A lot of people can't even do that process because they're just carrying so much rubbish in their hearts and their minds. They're not capable of getting themselves in that strong position that can actually make them more attractive and rearrange their partner's behaviour. But you've got to do it for you. You can't do it, oh, well, I'll do this and that will affect them. And it's kind of like an extra benefit when it actually affects your partner as well. You get yourself back in your power, back in your strength, clear out your rubbish, then you can take the steps you need to take to get to the point where you do actually magnetize your partner back to you. And I'll share with, I don't know, I haven't talked to you about sharing this, but I thought it was just such a lovely thing. We went away on vacation together some years ago, up north to a beautiful beachside house, and that was so much fun. And I remember on the way back, it was a time where we only took one car, so some of us came back on the train and some of us in the car. And Steve, you and I were in the car with 3 of our kids, 2 of mine, 1 of yours, and pretty much the whole way back, I don't know if I ever shared this with you, Kim, the whole conversation, and it was about a 5-hour trip, as I recall. Steve just went on and on about how amazing you were. And because I love you so much, I was just going, yes, 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 that's right. And I didn't. Neither of us got bored the whole way back, so you're good material. Lovely, you know. That showed how far you two had come as a couple, and it was just delightful. I was just thought that was so much fun, and the kids sitting in the back going, "Whoa, what's this?" That's how relationships should work, you know. But it took a lot to get there, and it wasn't the kind of scraping him towards you and trapping him with dinners to talk about the problems. That's not what got you there. It was something else entirely. So you just got in his strength, and that's where Baggage Dumper can really come in.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't necessarily using exactly your strategies back then, but I was using very similar strategies, and it's just so great to just have what you do to offer people now. And I mean, I felt like I'd come a long way already, but then when I did the Baggage Dumper program, there's just so much more stuff to clear out. And I guess I'd cleared out enough stuff before that I was functioning better and had better relationships, and people want to be around me now instead of not want to be around me. But I still hadn't really got through to that point of feeling joyous or being allowed to feel joyous. And I still think I've got a little bit of work to do there. I think there's still a little bit of baggage there that I need to actually sort of go back and look at. But I feel like, when it happens now, I feel like, oh, great, that's not going to be hard, because, in the past, my ways of dealing with it were very introspective and would take a lot of time and thought and inner work and meditation and prayer. And I think that prayer and meditation and time for reflection and all of that is good. But how much better if you can actually spend that time in prayer and meditation and reflection on positive things and on things that you're really interested in, rather than spending all of that time on just dealing with your own hurt or your own reasons for why you feel disconnected from other people, or why you may still feel like, even though everybody's around you and happy, that there's still a bit of loneliness, or that there's still a bit of separation in you from other people. Now it's the opposite. Now I sort of, my life's so full and so busy, I don't get a lot of time, but I just go, as soon as I've got, 5 or 10 minutes, I know I can use the Baggage Dumper techniques, and that will just be gone really quickly. And I won't need to spend so much of my free time and that, which is precious, to me now. My time alone is precious to me now. It isn't something that I'm scared of like I used to be in the past. But back to you, Steve. We promised that we'd continue on from where we were yesterday with your irritability. We're using you as a case study here for having done Baggage Dumper recently. Do you want to help recap?
Yeah, well, I spoke briefly yesterday, and there's a bit of a video snippet up online if you look for it, about how I took on my grandfather's irritability, someone I looked up to, but his irritability was always below the surface. It stopped me getting close to him in a loving sense. There was a lot of respect and care, but there was nothing really overly affectionate, which I probably craved as a young boy. But I never quite got that from him because he was just so irritable constantly. He never really relaxed. He was one of those people who could never relax, and I took that on as a parent when I started having kids, and Kim and I's kids. I mean, particularly our boys. It was sort of like a pattern, like my grandfather and me, and then me and my boys. So, and I could see only after I did the Baggage Dumper program a few weeks ago, when we were testing everything, the video, I was watching it and I went, wow, I can't believe that's me, that I took that on, and I'm just doing exactly the same as him. I would never have guessed that. You know, I've got other problems in my life. I don't get on with my dad all that well, and I thought that was the problem. But really, I've just took on my grandfather's irritability. So that was a few weeks ago, and I think from there, since then I've been in hospital with pneumonia and a couple of things, bad things have happened. So it hasn't been a nice, good few weeks for me.
Has it been a precious crisis for you, maybe?
It might have been a precious crisis. Yeah, you'll get to explain that in a minute too, Kim. But I think what I've seen it now, and I've let go, and the program helps me resolve that. It's helped me let go and say, well, I don't have to be so irritable with Lee, help them get closer to me. I'm going to have to start replacing it with something. And that's been a little bit of a challenge for me. And I haven't really known, because I've just had this pattern for 20 years. Since I've been a parent for 20 years, I don't know any other way of doing it, you know. And so I'm starting to think of it now. And just yesterday, my son came home, and look, he's 15 and he's got a bit of a you know, he thinks he's bulletproof, and he thinks, you know, the world revolves around him a bit at the moment. He's a bit of an egotistical narcissist. And
Which is kind of normal for a 15-year-old boy.
Which is normal for a 15-year-old, especially our boy who's so handsome. But I normally, if I saw him in the kitchen, I think my natural instinct was to say, well, can you help me do that? Can you help me do this? Come on, why don't you help me do this? Why did you just leave that out? You know, I'm just always been like that. It's embarrassing. But yesterday I went in and I said, hey mate, and I just gave him a hug, and we didn't say anything. But I had to do that consciously. I had to go, no, I'm not doing this irritable routine anymore. I'm still going to have to teach him how to help clean up the kitchen a bit, because, you know, that's important. But I'm not just going to go into that. I'm going to think of new ways. Now, I didn't have a script, so I didn't know what to say, so I just gave him a hug. And it was quite nice, so I enjoyed the hug, and I think he did too. But I'm now at this point, now that I've dumped this baggage, I've got to start figuring out what I'm going to replace it with. That's not so easy, but this is why we're doing this webinar. Dallas, you got any ideas? What can I do?
There's another one of those positive challenges, filling spaces that we've created for ourselves by dumping baggage. It's so good. And just to backtrack a little bit, going back to your precious crisis, Kim, when you first realized that your life didn't work anymore and you had to rearrange everything, and, you know, in the baggage dumper program, you can actually space jump into a spot where anything's possible just by being in a place of pain. And so I think that got you through that whole process. But some people might find that they get to that point of pain and they just don't have the resources yet. So filling it up with things that you can actually do through the baggage dumper program. We've got lots of different angles on it so that we're going to hit that baggage. And then coming to a point where you've got the resources you need, then you can go forward to the next steps. And at the end of the baggage dumper program, there's quite a lot that you learn to fill your life with, which is so lovely. Just open up to fill your life with. But in specific instances like this one, you've got to come up with, okay, well, who am I in this spot with my son? If I'm not Mr. Bear with a sore head, grumpy guy, who am I and what does that look like? So I've just got a question for you, Steve. Is there anyone in your life that you've obviously modelled off your grandfather, who was a wonderful man in lots of ways, and you just kind of grabbed that extra bit of baggage almost accidentally, but are there men in your life that you can look back to, whether they be a sports coach or a teacher or someone in your world, somebody else's dad, who has a pattern that you look to and you think, you know, I want to be like that, and you can imagine what they would say in those situations? Is there anyone that's played that role for you in your life?
Yeah, look, the person that jumped into my head is somebody that I actually play football with. He's a bit older than me, and but he just has this incredible knack of making people feel welcome. It's just, I don't know how he does it. You know, he just has this natural welcoming. He's got a smile. He just seems to know the right thing to say. And our sports club, Australian Rules Football, we're a relatively small club, and Australian Rules is not as popular up here in New South Wales as it is in the southern states. So We're always struggling to get people to come along, and we're always trying to figure out how to welcome people in, and we always just rely on Eric to do it. We say, hey, Eric, there's a new guy, go and talk to him, because he just is that. He's just the green beret of guys. Just has this amazing knack. So yeah, it'd have to be Eric, but I'll think about that more after the webinar, because I'm sure there's other people too, but he's certainly the one that jumped into my mind, yeah.
Because the fact that you can see that about him, what that means is that you have part of that in you already. Otherwise you wouldn't notice that about him. So that's a really encouraging thing to know, that if you see some good quality in somebody else that you really admire and like, have confidence. It's already in you, or you wouldn't be able to see it. So you have your own internal Eric. And so even though you haven't seen him interact with a 15-year-old son, part of you knows what that Eric side of you would do in that situation. So tapping into it, like yesterday we were talking a bit about tapping into that gut feel, unconscious understanding that you might have, that underneath part of your wisdom that you can join with your talky brain to get true wisdom when you get them both working together. So it's part of that, you know, check in with your gut feel. What would Eric do in this situation? What would the Eric-y side of me do in this situation? You know, would he flip his lid and shout about the cutlery falling on the floor, or what would he do? So some part of you knows the answer to that. So you can build a whole persona inside you. I once met this amazing woman in my workplace who she just had great ways of interacting. Instead of going, oh, I'm overloaded, I can't do it all, as I was inclined to do in those days, she just said things like, well, as a professional, here's what I can deliver to the standard I'm happy with. And the rest of us just all went, doing. We didn't know that. And yeah, she just had this incredible influence in the workplace. And so she's to me, that was Megan. I only knew her for about 3 weeks. She went on to a senior management role in another organisation, but I now have my own internal Megan that stops me from going, oh, I'm overloaded. I'll just go, right, here's what I can deliver to the standard that I'm happy with as a professional. And yeah, really powerful ways of doing things. And I don't have to know now what Megan, I don't have to have seen her in a million different situations. I've got my own internal version of her, and I just reference it whenever I need to. I go, that's a part of me I need right now. What's she going to say? So, you know, you can actually refer back to that internalized person who you can model from out in the world. You might have a combination of them that you meld together into your new parent persona, into your new fatherhood persona. And I know we're all looking forward to you doing the family leadership program and hearing these kinds of things all pulled together for people that they can model from and internalize for themselves. That'll be so exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. I understand that's going to be on the gold level membership program as well. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's great.
That's coming up next. I think it's really interesting, that idea about actually choosing our own role models, because I think, you know, we can, on a negative side, we can say, oh, but that's not really us, or I'd just be pretending, or I'd just be copying somebody else. But the reality is if you choose that because you like that and that's how you want to be, isn't that actually more you than you just allowing whoever happened to come along in your life be the people who sort of, you know, were your role models and and who you learned your behavior from? You know, becoming active in that selection and choice of your role models can sort of be as much a reflection of your personality as your taste in music or your taste in art or your taste in anything. And, you know, I think to me that's the real beginning of becoming a leader, is when you start being able to do that, when you start being able to say, well, okay, how am I going to do this? And who's the best, you know, who's the best person for me to model this if I don't have it? You know, is not sort of blaming other people when things aren't going the way that you need. How would somebody who is a better leader than me make this go the way I need it to?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of role model for leadership, that kind of role model for negotiation, Kim, that kind of role model for planning, kind of role model for emotional coaching, all of those skills. They're almost soft skills as they're referred to in the corporate sector, but they're really difficult to learn without a role model, and it's important that we look for them.
Can I throw in another thing at that point? You've also got to acknowledge what's already there inside you. And as I was hearing you talk about parenting and who you would model, we're thinking of who you would model from. That same vacation we went away on when we were staying in that, it was quite a small house for the number of people we crammed into it, wasn't it, that beachside house? But, I remember there was an issue with the kids. One of the kids was being left out of the games, and they were being a bit mean, and quite a tribe of kids there, our kids plus a few others, and so there was a bad dynamic happening there. And I remember hearing you, because the walls didn't go right to the ceiling. It was kind of a holiday house kind of set up, and I was on one side of the wall and I could hear you on the other side, and you gathered all the kids in the bunk room and they were all lolling all over the bunks, and just hearing you guide them through that situation with such wisdom and respect and firmness and leadership. I was just standing on the other side of it, bowing down and going, that's what it takes to be a good dad. I was just so in admiration of what you did there. You got all those kids on side, you brought out the best in them, and as far as I recall, there wasn't another problem for the rest of the time we were there. You really did gather them in, and I thought that was magnificent. So being aware of what you've already got to and expanding on that, using yourself as that, the best of you, and you know when you get it right, don't you? I bet you felt great after that. You go, yeah, I really nailed that. Those kids were looking at me, paying attention. They apologised for what they'd done, and they really got on board doing the right thing. And you feel good inside when you nail it like that, when you really get it. And so storing away those examples of when you got it right and using those as a model is another really important part of modelling.
I wish I wrote all that down. I don't anyway. I'm glad it had an impact on you, Dallas, and the kids. But I'll try and tap into those. That was a long time ago. But thank you for the kind words there. I just wanted to mention too, and I'm just conscious of us running out of time, that we do need to talk about why Baggage Jumper program and the online instant access is so important, and how it compares to a one-on-one session. I think that we probably didn't touch on that yesterday. Should we talk about that now, Kim?
Yeah,
Can I
that'd
throw
be
that to
great.
you, or should we just throw that to Dallas?
Well, that'd be great. I mean, I'll start and I'll throw it
Okay.
then throw it over to Dallas. But you know, I've said it a lot of times on the site, but I always get back to it because back when things were bad between us, the big thought that I always had in my head was that it was going to take years of therapy for us to get better and for our relationship to heal. But I hadn't afford that. I had no idea how I was going to find the time for that. I had no idea how I was going to get you to do that because you were not interested in doing that.
I wouldn't have been interested.
And so and then when we finally did get into some couples counseling, it was just disastrous and didn't last for very long. And I mean, we hear that from a lot of people who contact us. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's couples counseling out there that's great, that really helps people, but there is really that danger of when people get into counseling, of them wanting to sort of use the counseling sessions as a mediation process to try and solve their arguments. And so they come into the counseling session really very much as rivals, trying to get the therapist on their side. And excuse me, obviously a gifted therapist will work through that in time, but this is what's tremendous about Baggage Jumper Instant Access, is you don't have any of that, because it's just each person privately being able to do what's virtually a private session with you, Dallas, but in the privacy of their own home. It's a movie that they're watching, but it very much feels like you are in a session with Dallas. And because because it's one way. There isn't that danger of the person wanting to sort of go, oh, well, I want to show Dallas how much I already know. You can't get into ego, or
Yeah.
oh, my problem is actually really so bad. I don't know whether this is really going to help me, or it's not really my problem. It's really Steve's problem. He's really the one, and all that stuff that can come up that as I say, a gifted therapist can deal with. But with Baggage Dumper, what we've kind of discovered with Instant Access, and I mean, you would be the best one to compare this, Dallas, with the results that you're hearing now from the Instant Access and what happens in your private sessions with people. But it just allows you to just really get to the point of it really fast. I mean, I know someone like you, Steve, who is just not reflective in the slightest. You do not have 2 minutes in the day to reflect on what you said or what you did or what somebody else said or did. It's all right, but it's all straight ahead for you. It's just, okay, what's next on the list, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And so this is where Baggage Dumper was just terrific for you, because you were just able to sit down and go, oh, I need to watch Dallas, and I just do. And then she's telling you to reflect on stuff, and all of a sudden you're going, oh, that's different. I haven't done that before. But you got instant benefit from that.
That's right. Yeah.
Where I just don't think you would ever have found yourself in a therapist's office in the first place.
Well, I would have loved to have walked into Dallas's office and told her all about all my problems straight away. If it was a one-on-one in the office thing, sure.
Yeah,
really expensive chat.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, over to you, Dallas.
Yeah, well, I guess having created Baggage Dumper has given me a real dilemma in my business. It's quite a good dilemma to have, but the last few clients who have come to me and said, I really need to come and see you for one of your programs, and I'm thinking, gosh, am I really going to say, yeah, come in and see me, it'll probably cost you $1,000 or a bit more by the time we do all the things that I've packed into the Baggage Dumper program. I generally would recommend something slightly smaller, but they might end up needing the whole thing. So, I'm looking at $1,000 for them for my time, and I can't do it for any less and be sustainable in my business, given the amount that I put into each person. But yeah, it's a dilemma for me, because what I want to say to them, and what I have been saying to them now, is, well, you could come and see me, or you could just get yourself in touch with the Baggage Dumper program and see how you go with that, because it's exactly what I would be doing with you face-to-face, and actually we get more done because of that issue you were saying there. People want to come in and tell their story, and that can be a bit helpful, or we can find things from that to work with. But generally speaking, the kinds of rubbish they need to clear out can be done with all those processes we've put on the Baggage Dumper Instant Access. So yeah, I'm just directing everyone back to there. So it's an interesting dilemma to have, and I guess over time what will happen is that I'll be directing people back to that program, and if they come to me afterwards, it'll be with, let's just tailor this issue that I've still got that wasn't, covered by that, and we'll yet to see, I guess, whether anything is left over after people do the Baggage Dumper program that they really feel they need to come and talk to me. I might have done myself out of a job. But if it's out there doing good, I'll just got to get over myself and say, yeah, that's great. Why should people be paying $1,000 when they can pay, under $200 in Australia and well under $200 in the US to get the same benefit? So,
yeah, that's right. And really, it's just made you available to more people, I think. And I think that's a great thing. But we really do want to encourage our viewers today to jump in and do Baggage Dumper. I'm waiting for me to come. There I am. To jump in. So I'm going to a little bit, Dallas, and see if we can make a little bit of a promise to people that if they sign up for today for either of the membership options, you'll see a link below, or to the buy page. Now there's 3 different options. And 2 of them involve our monthly membership site. It's $39 a month. It'll only take you 2 months of membership to get through Baggage Dumper. It'll only take about 5 weeks actually, but that will be 2 monthly installments. So that's like $80 for $1,000 worth of therapy. There's heaps of other stuff in the membership area as well. We really want people to, we want to encourage people to stay members. You know, you can unsubscribe whenever you like, but we hope that you want to stay on forever and recommend it to your friends, or maybe not forever. As you know, Steve's Leadership Challenge will be what we're working on next, and then I'm going to be doing a series on dealing with bullies. And people's the money that comes into the membership area is what allows us to actually continue on with the next things that we're working on. But today I'd like to see if it's okay with you, Dallas, if maybe we arrange to do maybe just once a week for the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or anyway, just let's see what your availability is. But we actually for new members who join today and who join at the moment, that we'll actually get together for a hangout on air, but where everybody can join in and we can face to face have people actually let you know how they're going with it and ask you any questions and join in the conversation. How does that sound?
Sounds great. Yeah, that's terrific to be available for people as they go through the program, to throw any questions to us that they feel uncertain of, or they want reassurance on, or they've got queries of, oh, how did that work, or what's the thinking behind that, and why did that work so well, or why didn't that work for me, and this bit seemed to work and not that bit. So yeah, I'd be really, really delighted to be interacting with people as they go through the program, to hear what their experiences are and help them get the best out of it.
Well, that's great, because with these Google Hangouts we can get up to 10 people. So Dallas would be one and Kim and I would be the other, and so that leaves 8 spaces. So make sure you get your gold level, sign up for your gold level membership today, which means that you'll also get instant access to the Baggage Dumper program. You'll be away, and you'll also get an invitation to the Google Hangout where we can all talk to each other. This one's a Hangout on air, which we're public. We're going public with this one. But we would obviously make the next ones private, so don't worry about that. There's a lot of issues. Kim and Dallas and I are very conscious of the fact that a lot of the topics we're talking about here is something that we don't want to be sharing publicly, so we're very aware of that, and we can help make that okay for you, so don't worry about that. If you've got any queries, you can contact Kim or I through our Facebook or through our email. If you don't have either, make sure you have a look on this page, baggagedumper.com/webinar. There should be an option for you to contact us on Facebook there. If not, just go back. You can put a chat window in. We can also take questions live on air. So, Kim, I just wonder if there's anything else we need to talk about before our time runs out. Dallas, if there's anything you'd like to mention before our time's run out, I'll throw it over to you.
No, I'm fine. Over to Dallas.
Dallas?
We do get a few questions coming up about how can I make my partner do the Baggage Dumper program, because people think that their partner is the one who needs to do it. And I know Kim and I have had a chat about, well, probably the best way to influence your partner is, again, go back to yourself and do it for yourself, and let them notice the changes that are there and get them feeling drawn to it rather than pushed to it. It's always a much better influencer. So yeah, if you want your partner to do it, great opportunity is to do it for yourself, and there's always some dusty corner that hasn't been swept out for a while that might be dragging you back. So yeah, that's what a really good answer to that dilemma is, just grab it and go with it yourself, and let them see what a difference it makes.
Terrific. Well, thanks so much for being with us and sharing your time with us today, Dallas.
Great to be here with you.
I'd like to thank our wonderful friends in the United States, Chris and Margie, who help us keep this on track and allow us to talk to you, the public, and take care of everything else in the background. It really makes this worthwhile, and we thank them immensely. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Margie. And thanks, Kim. Thanks, Dallas.
Great. See you soon. See you tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yes.
We'll see you tomorrow. Check for the time underneath. If you're on the Baggage Dumper /webinar page, you'll see a time below. It's an hour earlier than this one started today, so it's an hour later than this one started today. So it's midday in Sydney, please check your local times. Midday in Sydney tomorrow. That's in about exactly 24 hours and 5 minutes from now. Okay, thanks everyone. Be sure to tune in and invite your friends.
Bye.